Bradford A, what is going on, brother?
Yo, dude, look at you with a big boy microphone.
We're due. I know you got me a mic. Thank you. And some glasses and some coffee. I appreciate that.
I know we are full on professionals here. Because we're doing a professional podcast with a guest that people have been clamoring for.
Yes.
And so we're so excited to talk to George Newbern and hear about. I can't wait to hear. I can't wait to know if he was excited to meet you as you were to meet him.
I know. Look, this guy's, first of all, he's a great voice actor. Not many people know that he's even a voice actor, right? But
well, he's got such a prolific acting career.
I know his IMDb is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like he's been acting forever and he was on Scandal and all this stuff. So it's like his acting resume is awesome, but he has been doing two voices for a long time. He's been doing Superman,
right,
Justice League for 16 years, he said.
That's crazy town. That's crazy.
And then he did Final Fantasy with me. He played Sephiroth for I think 13 or 14 years.
Right.
So what a run on voiceover. But anyway, we got to meet this weekend for the first time, this past weekend. It was awesome, and we'll get to talk about that as soon as he gets on with us.
Right.
Today.
But first of all, just a little bookkeeping for us. We're hitting the road in a couple weeks. If for whatever reason you're new to our podcast, we do a 90-minute music and comedy show, and we tour all over the country. And we're hitting Nashville and Dallas August 28th and 29th, or 27th and 28th, or something like that.
27, 28th. Yep.
27, 28. And then just about a week later, we're doing a kind of a Midwest run starting in Oklahoma City on Tuesday, September 6th. Then we're hitting the Improv in Kansas City on the 7th, Wednesday. Then we are going up to Omaha, Nebraska, a new place for us, on September 8th, Thursday at the Funny Bone. Friday night in Batavia, Illinois, about 45 minutes west of Chicago, at the Comedy Vault Friday night. Zany's downtown Chicago, Saturday, September 10th, and the Helium Club in St. Louis on September 11th. What?
This list never ends, dude. That was the longest list. We've had one longer run than that, but that's a good run. I think that's 7 cities in 7 days.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So go to stonecoldandjackal.com for all the information. Get your tickets. Don't wait.
That's
until
right.
the last minute. Don't wait, because a lot of times the VIP sells out real fast because we get to take pics with you guys and have a lot of fun. So we're looking forward to it, and we appreciate you guys.
Yeah, I mean, for anybody that doesn't know, we do a 90-minute show, and then if you have a VIP ticket, that usually gets you better seats, number one, but most importantly, after the show, you get to hang out, say a quick hello to us, take a picture. It's a blast. So,
well, hold on. Club by club, it's not always better seats. I just want to preface that.
I said sometimes. That's right.
Oh, sometimes. Right. There you go. Okay.
Yeah, because sometimes the clubs don't have the ability to do that. So, but the most important part of that ticket is it basically lets you hang out after the show and say hi to us and take a picture.
Yeah,
which we enjoy. We always enjoy saying hi to people. And this is, let me see, this is going to be podcast number 231 or 232, something like that. So, so we're going strong. We're doing it. So excited to talk to George. Here he is. Sephiroth to some people. But the thing is, you're so prolific in the voice and acting world. I mean, the introduction could take 10 minutes. So we're just going to say, we got George Newbern.
Go ahead. Go for it. Go ahead and do the I'm kidding.
Hey, man, thanks so much for joining us. This is awesome.
You're welcome. Good to see you guys. I just recently met my castmate, Steve Burton, over the weekend, although we've kind of been working together for 15 years, but just physically met for the first time over the weekend at a convention in Phoenix. So it's fun to make the connection now.
It's funny. I spent a lot of time with this guy. And so I end up talking about you so much because people ask about you, George. And so, it seems like this was a long time coming. And I wonder, in your experience,
100%.
How often did you talk about Steve Burton, against your will, I guess, basically?
Well, I wouldn't say it's against my will, but there are so many, great fans out there who, know Steve from all of his work before, and they're like, why don't you guys do a con together? And Cloud and Sephiroth, we got to get you guys going. I said, oh, that sounds like a great idea. I just wasn't I wasn't keyed into the whole con world yet. And then the gentleman who handles me said, you know what, you got to get Steve Burton. I said, okay, I'll reach out to Steve Burton. But I was just sort of, you know how you do jobs, and you don't ever, especially voiceover jobs, you don't really get to meet these people. You work sort of incognito a little bit, but basically it was the convention fans that made it happen, which is kind of cool. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I remember George tweeted or messaged me on Twitter years ago. I mean, it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, George. Maybe
years ago, yeah.
Well, because COVID was 2 years, so it was before that. So I was just like,
so this happened
yeah,
before
what
COVID.
are these cons and whatever. And I was so busy with other things, but and I mean, I just always have, I mean, first of all, it was great to meet George. I hugged him like he was a long lost relative for about 20 minutes. So
I was thinking,
so he was like, all right, buddy.
In the middle of
all right, buddy.
I was hoping he was just going to, I hope you just give me a little bit of an adjustment,
Yeah.
You hug Steve Burton and you go, has a back that is literally like a W. It's not even a V. It's a W.
Right.
It starts out down here and goes way out.
Yeah.
Just saying, literally,
Sure.
the physical part of that is.
It's a great hug. It is truly a great hug.
Great hug. It's a great hug.
Great hug.
He's not. But it was just. It was
Steve's
so
not
great.
a patter. He's a. Yeah.
No, he's
just
just almost a snapper.
Yeah, exactly.
It was just great after all these years, because like George said, we've never been in the same room together doing this voice together against, or opposing voices essentially.
Yeah.
And I didn't really realize until this weekend. I knew the characters were iconic and stuff, but it wasn't really till this weekend where people were like,
exactly. You and I are not even gamers necessarily. I'm not a gamer. Are you
correct.
a gamer at home?
Right.
So yeah. So
I used to game a lot, but
did you? Okay.
Yeah, people would come up and go, oh my, I mean, to have us together was like, for the Final Fantasy fans was a humongous deal.
It was.
And it was so fun. It was so fun.
Really fun.
We had a great weekend.
Was there a bit of a pilgrimage to come see you guys when it was announced that you both were going to be there?
I think so. I mean, tons of people, I don't know if they said to you, but they said, I specifically got my ticket to come see you guys, online. I can see
they said when we saw the two of you were going to be there, we were coming, but these cons are all over the country. I mean, so George, let's get this voiceover thing out of the way. Then we talk about your acting stuff. So when did you start doing these cons?
I think it was about, I want to say 5-6 years ago. I just did like 1 or 2, and then I got different representation, and then suddenly I was doing more because the person I was with before was not really
sure.
They were more of a sort of for live action, for like the vampire and the supernatural type thing. They're less focused on animation cons, and anime and game stuff. Yeah. So, but since I've been with this guy Neri, spent a lot more in the last 3 or 4 years, which I love. Since the pandemic, I feel like I've been in my own little hidey hole. Just not seeing anybody or doing anything. It's great to literally get out and shake
meet
the
people.
pound, shake the flesh.
When that started, was that like, depending on the con, was it like, did it appeal more to the other voice work that you did before, or is it always because of Final Fantasy and because of the DC stuff? Or
it started with the DC. For me, it started with the DC stuff. That's sort of a much broader appeal than the Final Fantasy. But then when I just sort of put a couple of pictures out when I started to do the Superman stuff. I put a couple of pictures out, and then people come by and like literally lose it and go, "Oh my God, you're that voice?" And they lost it. So I started going, maybe there's a way to connect with the Seph and a Final Fantasy fan. So so they're very different audiences, although there is some overlap. But I think Final Fantasy is much more very rabid. Sort of, I don't want to say niche, but
it is for sure. Yeah,
and then seeing Steve, I think might even break it open, even more. Yeah, there's a lot of folks out there that would love to sort of see us.
Well, it's interesting to me. Some of the people that when they talk to Steve about their relationship to the game in Final Fantasy, they talk about it. They talk about it very similarly to how they talk about our work on soaps, where it was,
I feel like they know you.
Yeah. They grew up with us, or it was something that they played with somebody. They had a story that made it a sentimental attachment, not just like that's cool. And I'm curious, is that the same thing with all the games that you've done, or is Final Fantasy different in that regard?
Well, I tell you, it's I haven't done a whole lot of animation. I've probably done, I don't know, 10 different animation jobs, or maybe more than that. Not that much. I'm not really in the animation world. I'm not in the little club yet, but the things that I have done are iconic. The couple of the like Superman and that one are hugely huge audience base. So I'm trying to think of the question. Oh, what was the question?
Well, no,
are they coming for what now?
Well, no, I mean, do they have as much of a sentiment? Do
you
so
find
drunk
that, right now, by the way.
I know that's we always require that of our guests. Day drinking is a must. But no, but the attachment, that the sentimental attachment that they have to Final Fantasy, and well, I guess the DC stuff is more cartoons, not games, right? But so
correct. Although there is some games, half my work for DC has been in games, video games.
Wow, that's awesome.
And then the latest thing I've been doing is a streaming platform called Multiverse, and it's a mashup of all of DC characters and like Iron Giant and Scooby Doo and people from Adventure Time, and they're all mashed together on Warner Brothers Multiverse the streaming platform. I think it's a free game, but it's really great. The animation is amazing, and people love the the fighting. It's called a fighting game, I guess. Not a shooting game, but a fighting game. Or there's like a term for it or whatever. But,
right, hand.
Anyway,
I don't know.
It's kind of fun, and Well, but it's really fun. Yeah.
Well, and I wonder, coming up, doing all the work that you've done, in terms of going out and meeting people that appreciate your work, these conventions, had you done like? Did Scandal do fan events or like go to conventions or
no? Listen, I think it's a somewhat recent phenomenon in the sense that San Diego Comic-Con and New York Comic-Con were sort of the genesis, and that started probably 20 years ago. And since they tapped into that huge demand for kids and now adults that are into this whole comic animation live action, it became a venue to sort of advertise and market everything on the planet. San Diego Comic-Con is more so movies and live action, but I didn't plan on, like, if you had told me 6 doing cons, I'll be like, cons, what's a con and why would I go and what do you like? But once I started going, for me, most 80-90% of my work so far has been on camera, so movies and TV and stuff like that. And as I've sort of become older and less my industry for 58-year-old, not even middle-aged anymore, I think I'm just getting a gray-haired guy. I'm not playing the lead guy. I'm playing the sort of the dad, and then the weird uncle or the serial killer. So there's a little less, I think, actually opportunity for me. But when that happened, it just sort of, this other thing sort of came out of the blue, and I've sort of gone with it because it's been fun to do, and it's cool to stay active. And when the other stuff on camera stuff happens, it happens. It's great. I just don't count on that anymore. And I have a narration business that I have on the side that I love doing, that I have a studio, and so narration and animation is sort of my day-to-day job. And then the on-camera stuff is when it happens, it happens. I decided not to count on it. Sure. The business has changed so much for actors.
Sure.
But it's life. Life is about change. You've got to meet change when it happens, and you go with what you got going at the time, and you pivot. You just keep pivoting.
Right.
So
yeah,
I'm happy. I've got my health. I got a family. I'm happy. I've got no complaints, honestly. I just got to figure out how to pay for things.
It's funny talking to you reminds me of a conversation we had with a previous guest. Steven Weber?
I do know Steven. Yeah, I know Steven Weber. He's hilarious. I love Steven.
Right. Exactly. He and I did a pilot years ago together, and I know he does a lot of voiceover and a lot of narration as well.
He does.
And I figured you guys might be in the same generation and come up together.
He's a great guy, and he and Tim did Wings together, and Steven was dating or was married to a woman that was doing a play that my wife was doing at the Old Globe before. Actually, right before we got married. So I've kind of known him for a long time, but more recently, a little better recently. And he makes me laugh. He is got a razor wit, that guy.
All right, so George, let's just go back a little bit. Right, where are you from originally?
I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas.
Wow.
Little Rock, Arkansas. I'm a Razorback.
Nice.
Razorbacks.
Are you a football fan?
I love my Razorbacks, man. I like college football, and I don't really follow as much pro, but
yeah, it's funny. The a little bit of that, whatever that Appalachia. What is Arkansas? What is the
Arkansas is Appalachia. You got a pretty mouth on you, don't you? Y'all don't know why. Yeah, we usually like a big no, yeah, Arkansas is kind of a weird. It's a southern state for sure. But
right.
Little Rock, where I grew up, is it's southern, but it feels a little bit like St. Louis, Kansas City, in that there's sort of a broader sort of Midwest Southern thing going on.
Right.
But south once you get south of Little Rock, it's fields and rice fields and cotton and soybean, flat. It becomes more the Delta, right? When you go north, you're in the mountains, so that becomes more sort of country Appalachia,
sure.
that feel. So you can have really accent-wise, my gosh, there are lots of different accents. But as you go south, it becomes softer and more Louisiana, kind of Georgia, Louisiana. As you get north, it gets real. It's like almost like barking. Like,
right.
How y'all doing?
Right. Right.
It's got there's an R in all every syllable's got an R in it.
So what opportunities were there for an up and coming creative type in in Arkansas?
I growing up in Little Rock, as a 12-year-old, there was a children's theater in Little Rock. It was really, really, really good. And I was not great at sports. I don't know. I liked it, but I just wasn't good at it. And there was this theater, and so I started doing plays in this children's theater and did musicals, and I was singing and doing all this stuff, and then in high school I kind of stopped doing it for a little bit, and then I did some in high school, but believe it or not, I played the flute, I took ballet, and I dated the cheerleader. So I was sort of an anomaly in the South. Those are not things that go together.
Was it jazz flute?
It wasn't jazzy. It was just flute, straight up flute. I played the flute, and I took ballet, and I was in theater, and I dated the hot cheerleader. So I was, I maybe that was my protection from getting my butt kicked. I don't know. But so then I went on to Northwestern University in Chicago and continued doing theater there. And this was really fortunate to get to do some great plays there and meet a lot of amazing teachers. And I had crazy in my class: Stephen Colbert, Dermot Mulroney, David Schwimmer. Harry Lennox. They were all in my class. One above, one below. We were all together. But John Logan, the playwright, was a couple years ahead of us. He's done a million things. You've heard of John Logan probably, but who else? It's just bananas.
Yeah, well, it's amazing how
Seth Meyers was a couple years, 5 years after us. But it's like it draws a lot of people that are academically really smart, not necessarily show busy people, but they get there, and then there's a great department, and it becomes a way for people to sort of be creative. And then after that, most of them become writers. And, Steve
an
improv guy.
With a lot of the people that we interview, actors and comedians, it's like, Chicago's a big hub.
Yeah,
it seems like
a
lot of talent. A lot of talent comes out of Chicago. I know a lot of talent comes out of New York, but it just seems like a hotbed, like Second City's there and all the things.
Yeah,
like
it really is.
That's pretty cool.
It's a lot of fun.
When you're in school there, do you connect to those local, like the companies, like whether it's Steppenwolf or or Second City, or is it more just school stuff?
Mostly, the school stuff is so intense; it really demands 24/7 stuff. But I actually managed to get out and do some equity theater, some equity musicals around Chicago, just because I wanted to see what it was like. I wanted to see if, hey, do I really want to do this for a living? And can I do this for a living? And all the questions you ask yourself. And I was able to get work, and I figured, okay, I'm gonna double down on this and keep going hard on this, because I'm just one of those people that I love the art of it, but I also want to have a life. I wasn't willing to not have a life just for the sake of going, I'm a really good singer, or I'm a dancer, or whatever. I can be an actor. But I loved it, but not enough to sacrifice all the rest of it. And I saw too many people not being able to provide, So I just thought, how can I do this? How do I get a sign that I can do this and, eat and feed myself? And so I got little sort of affirmations while I was at school. Yes, to answer your question, I did stuff outside of Chicago to sort of hopefully give myself an idea of how it was going to go.
What was the decision process in terms of like when you left Chicago? Was it going west? Was it going east? And what
I told Steve, I told the story. So we had a panel, a thing, and when I was junior, spring of my junior year, I auditioned for a movie downtown Chicago. I didn't know what it was, and a week later they said they're going to fly you to LA for a screen test. I was like, really? So I flew out to do a screen test for Back to the Future, and I met Steven Spielberg, and I was down to the last 3 people. So I was one of the last 3, and they had the sets built, and all the cast had been cast. So I did my 10-hour basically audition with Christopher Lloyd and Leah
Thompson,
who did Leah Thompson, Crispin Glover, everybody had been cast except Marty McFly. So I was doing all this, and I'd never done anything. I was just doing musicals at Northwestern. My head was exploding. So that for me was my first. So to answer your question, I went, you know what? I think I'm going to go to LA. I'm not going to New York because I could see the route of musical theater is pretty limited. You know, you can do some stuff, but most, you know, it's just much harder. And I thought, you know, while I'm younger, at least I should go where that's happening.
Well, and especially with your idea of trying to have with your thought of trying to have a life. Yeah. At least when you travel for film and TV, you make good money.
Well, you can, you know, and I felt like, you know, maybe I was a sellout, maybe I was a whore and a sellout, and that's, you know, maybe I am.
And that's okay.
But I do, you know, just like, and it's like, listen, man, there's trade-offs for everything. I could have stayed and been that guy and stayed in New York and maybe had a bigger career later. I don't care. I know that I wanted to not live like a rat in New York City. I don't like it. It makes me, I don't like people on top of me.
Look,
and you know,
look,
I don't like it.
We were talking about this yesterday. It's show business. There's some things you just kind of do for the money, and there's some things you do for the creativity. And, you know, it's a combination of both. And we've all done it. There's not one person who hasn't done it as an actor.
Right.
You know, so
you make trade-offs in everything in life. And my trade-off is I felt like, you know what? I like this trade-off. I'm good with it. You know,
I think you're good right now. I think.
Well, and so even though Back to the Future didn't happen, it seemed like things happened pretty quickly after, right?
I was so lucky. So I had another year at school, and then when I graduated, it came out, and man, I was just so lucky. I got a start in a TV movie with Elizabeth Shue. I got to play a rock star, and I was a Prince and the Pauper. I played 2 different parts of the split screen, and it was Mark Gordon, who's the very famous producer. Mark Gordon, that was his first job. The writer, John McNamara, he did Trumbo and done a million things. That was his first job. And then Dave Greenwald, who created Buffy and with Josh Whedon and, you know, all these other big, that was his second or third directing thing. And so we were all like, oh, wow, I'm friends with all these folks still. And that was my first job in LA, and I got to sign with CAA. I had sort of a crazy Cinderella story. But that's not even the interesting part is when all that goes away, which it does eventually. So after about a year, I still had an agent, but I didn't work for another year. I mean, I did 3 movies in the thing, and then it just was dead for a year and a half. And I was like, oh my God, is that what this is?
Right.
Is that what you're supposed to do out of here? No one's going to call me. I have to kind of get up and really make this happen. So I've had up and down and up and down and up and down. If you were to look at my career as an EKG, as a heart EKG, it looks like I'm having a heart attack for 30 years.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? It's like flatline, flatline, flatline. That has been my career for 30 years. And you know what? That's fine. I now know what it is. So you know, you see the peaks and troughs, and you survive them. You've survived them enough times on the other end of it. You go, oh, I'm just having a heart attack. Oh, I'm just having a heart attack. I'm going to live, you know, but it doesn't feel good.
Right.
So you fine tune that EKG as you get older and go, ooh, you want to smooth it out. It's not so dramatic. You smooth it out with doing other things and pivoting and enjoying your life and having a family and, you know, writing and I make olive oil. I'm up in San Ynez. I've got 150 trees. I've got we're starting an olive oil business. So I'm doing things that have nothing to do with show business, which makes me happy. So
wow. So
that's awesome.
I mean, have you always had that? You've always had that instinct, like in that year or however long it was when you had that, if you want to call it a dry spell. How were you keeping your creative self going and not going crazy over the phone not ringing?
Therapy, my friend.
All right.
Therapy. Yeah. going to church and therapy, between those two, and then my now wife being very patient with me. There's a lot of that.
Yeah,
but
sure.
it's just a process of growing up. If you can, I'm just so lucky. I came to. I mean, I came out when I was 22. I'm 58 now. So, if I look through my 20s and I just go, my God, how did I keep my head together in my 20s? Is just shocking. I just, by grace, that I made it through that.
That time in LA, there's probably a lot that could have
derailed you.
Yeah.
Well, yes, and it still is.
Well, yeah, and Steve can tell you a lot about it. Yeah.
Yes, I can. I sure can.
Yes, there are many pitfalls, many people hiding in foxholes that want to kill you and make you. That was the other thing that I noticed is that no one. No one. As a matter of fact, people are actively rooting for you not to succeed. If you're an actor, if you're a creative personality, number one, no one cares. No one cares. And as a matter of fact, if you fail, they're like, "Yeah,
told you so."
See that coming. So for you to keep your head together, I saw that coming. I think it's just it's a crash course in character development, honestly, to even want to do this and to stay at it. It's a miracle, honestly. I look at starting out today. It's a miracle that people can even make it. It's just
it's so weird, George, because we all want validation as actors, right? Most of us as actors want some type of
that's the unhealthy start. We all
of course, that's exactly right. But then we're forced to learn perseverance and resilience. Right? We're kind of forced to learn these things that are opposing to wanting validation and confirmation. So it's kind of interesting, because I know we all start, no one comes out going, I'm the greatest there ever was, and this and that. Everyone wants this. Was it good enough? Was it good enough? Like we're programmed in auditions. Did they like me? Did I do it right? And then you're on set with the directors. Was that good? Should I do another take? And then
listen.
Yeah. So it's just kind of this weird thing where we're forced to kind of get thick skin, and, the strong will survive in Hollywood, and you will have perseverance and resilience,
Well, no, you were just saying your validation, like when you're on set, that the evolution, if you'll notice when you were a young actor, when you first came out, you're on set, you do a take, and if the director doesn't go, amazing, Steve, that was nailed it, whatever, then if you find yourself, and I did, going to the crew guy and goes, did that seem okay? How was that?
Totally,
did I hit it?
Totally.
Was that funny?
Yeah.
I was doing that, and it took me 10 years to realize it's insane to ask for feedback from anyone. You have to know when you did it, and if no one laughs, great. Most likely, the take they're using is a little clip of you, but you have to develop this inner thing in your gut that says, you know what, I think that was good. Maybe it could be better. Maybe if we get another take, great. If not, I think I know. I saved my skin. It's good enough. I don't need to have the director and the producer and the writer and the grip and the craft service guy tell me, my God, you're hilarious. You're so funny. Right. Oh my God, you nailed it. But I used to think I had to have that but you don't need it. It's actually so dangerous to do that. Dangerous.
Yeah. And what's interesting, you just made me think of a point, like growing up in daytime, like we didn't get a lot of takes.
Oh my God, you guys, that's a whole
we didn't get a lot of takes. So you were always so prepared. Like when I went to do some film and TV, and I was really surprised on the lack of preparation of some of the actors. Right? Like they would burn through 2 or 3 takes of real film just to get their lines out. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is not how things are done, right? Because that's not how we grew up, how I grew up, right? So I was almost programmed like, hey, dude, you got 3 takes. You better bring those 3 or you're not getting another shot at all. So it's just
you guys are trained in a way that most actors are not, and it's impressive that you start firing on a different side of your brain that you just like, it's like emergency. I got to get it done. I got to, or else I'm dead.
911 for sure.
It's emergency acting. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no warm up takes. There's no, do you know what I mean? Like,
no.
yeah. There's
well,
no,
downstairs
like,
there is.
We'll
That's
find
it.
Oh, well, yeah.
Downstairs, you know.
Right. Yeah. You either did it right then or you're done. Yeah.
Right. Looking back at your IMDb, which is, you know, lengthy.
I should be way more famous. Go ahead.
Well, but that's interesting because like I'm recurring on GH now. I used to be a contract character, or, you know, but now I'm recurring, and I know you've recurred on some like famous shows, you know, like Designing Women. You were I don't know if you were ever a regular on Designing Women. But,
no, I was that was one of my first jobs actually, right? Yeah, right after that other thing. Yeah. Great people, great job.
And then of course, you know, you were so great on Scandal, man. And I wanted to actually ask about your kind of Shondaland experiences, because you started in private, you did private practice, and that once you're in that club, that's a pretty good club to be isn't it?
Well, it is, and at the same time, you know, I've just come to the conclusion that it doesn't seem to ever really get a free pass. You really kind of have to earn it every time. And I thought that maybe it's like, hey man, I've met with them. I've met with them 6 times. I've done 3 other shows. Do I need to even go in? It was an audition for this. I'd already worked for them. I've already auditioned. I said, do I need to go to this? Can they just offer me? It's a 1 guest spot. And they said, no, they got to meet. I was like, okay, all right. I almost didn't go. And it was a guest spot. And it turned out, you know, they liked me. And then I did 3. And then I just, I was able to keep, I was recurring, honestly, I think I did 70 some odd episodes. I was recurring for 50, although I was, you know, it's the other part of the landscape that's different now. They have you as a guest at not much money for the whole time. But I'm not complaining because it was such a great experience. But so technically I was recurring until the last season, and I was only a regular the last season, although it looks like I was a regular the whole time. But it's Shondaland is amazing. The writing is great. People super supportive, and I was just so happy. I'd gone through a really sort of tough time in my life, and we left LA, moved to Princeton, New Jersey. I'd sold everything and moved away, and then didn't work out, and came back. And this was the first audition after having sort of basically left LA and kind of felt like I was starting over. I got a job that went for 7 years. It was
wow. Isn't that how it happens, right?
It's crazy. It's crazy. I had to
awesome.
Completely leave and almost ruin my family. It was incredible how that came down. And Shonda was really that was sort of an angel. She was an angel to me for that. I basically survived from that job. Got able to reinvent and start another chapter.
Sure. Yeah. So let me ask this, George. I know because you've done so many things. Kind of looking back, what were some of the now that you've had a 36 or 37 year career, what were some of the highlights? I know every job's important, and I get it, and you do things that you want to do, but looking back, what were some of the kind of really like, hey, that was really cool, or I got to go to this place, or this was an awesome, you know, script that I loved doing.
I would have to say first off, just meeting you in that bar in Phoenix.
Besides that.
Okay. All right. Okay. Besides that, you know, I've been so blessed with so many opportunities, but gosh, I think that TV movie with Elizabeth Shue, that was the first one that made my head explode, and I was like, oh my God, that was incredible to feel like I could do it and do a good job. And that opened the world up for me. And then doing I think Father the Bride was a big deal for me because I was working with such big stars, and I felt like I could kind of hold my own. And it was the girl who played my bride. She also went to Northwestern. I didn't know her because she was 10 years younger than me, but that was amazing to sort of see it through her eyes, and then the experience inside. That was incredible. And I think I did this series started a series for TNT called Bull with Stanley Tucci and Kathy Baker and the guy who did Law and Order, Michael Chernuchin. That was the first series that I was the star of, that I led. We did 18 episodes, and then the stock market took a dive and we got to cancel. But
sure.
But that was sort of life changing in the sense that I learned how to lead. I felt like I had to be a leader in the cast and just sort of be like more of a business person while I was doing my job. That was pivotal. Scandal was certainly life changing that way. So, and then also I did a movie that was not a good movie, but I got to go do the sequel to Terms of Endearment in Houston. We were down in Houston for 3 months, and I was working. All my scenes were with Shirley MacLaine, and
wow, that's amazing.
So that was surreal. There's certain jobs that are just surreal. I did a TV movie in Vienna, Austria, with Bill Cosby and Robert Culp. Okay, it was the redo of I Spy.
Oh wow,
that was surreal. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
So when I look back on all these things, I think about the job itself and the location I was in, and they're about equals. Sometimes the job is like, I don't even think about the job. The location in Austria was fantastic. It was amazing. You know, my wife came and we traveled around. So when I think of that job, I just think of the trip,
the experience.
I did a TV. Yeah, I did a TV movie 2 years ago, right before the pandemic, with Leah Michele and Nia Vardalos in Hawaii. We were there for 6 weeks. All I think about is the trip in Hawaii. I had a great time with the crew and the cast. I didn't even know I had the job. It's like, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's good.
Right.
But the job, at this point in my life, I'm like, where do I get to go? Do I get to go someplace fun? Are these people fun? And then the product is like, you do the best you can, but you just don't have any control over how those things end up.
Absolutely.
So I can't look at like that was a bad experience because it was a TV, but it's like, no, hey, was I having fun? Yeah. Did I make some good money? Yeah, that's great. Did I, am I still friends with some of those people? Yeah. So that my metrics are different now.
Yeah, sure.
I can't.
That's
you
cool.
just as an actor, you have no control over how the final product ever turns out.
Yeah.
So
well,
it sounds
like you are focusing on a final product with this olive oil thing. So we have a friend we have a friend that also moved up to San Ynez. Made some wine for a bit, and the Central Coast is one of my favorite places. It's where my wife and I dated. She was doing. I don't know if you're familiar with PCPA, the Theater Fest in Solvang. The outdoor theater.
I love PCPA. Yeah, beautiful. They just renovated that, by the way.
Yeah, so she was living in New York and I was in LA, and she came out to work there. And so on my weekends, I had just booked GH and young and some money, and I'd go up there and drink all day and hang out with her at night and join all the wine clubs. I mean, it was amazing.
What's wrong with that?
Right, exactly. So what brought you up to the valley, and why olive oil?
It's funny. It's 20 in 2001, when that show Bull was ending, my wife was on a TV show for the Hughleys for 4 years. She was the neighbor. She was a regular on the show. So she and I
DL was in the pilot with me and Steven Weber.
Oh, really? That's right. DL,
so
we love DL. As a matter of fact, DL has a house in Solvang, believe it or not.
Oh, no kidding. No kidding.
He's never here, but he's got a little hustle.
Right.
But so when the show was, my wife had another year on the show. We just had our third kid, and we had a little bit of extra money, and we went to this place called Alisal, this hotel, this sort of dude ranch over here. And the light was right in the afternoon, and we had a glass of wine, and I was like, this is insanely beautiful up here. Mm-hmm. So we had one of the sort of like one of those moments, and so we got to look for land. So we started looking for land, and we found a little land, and then one thing led to another, and we built a house, and we've had it for 20 years, and we planted olive trees when we first got here, and then planted 4 years ago another 120 down the hill. And
nice.
This area it's Los Olivos, clearly.
Right.
The olives grow amazingly well here. So yeah, man. So it's just going to be fun, and we're going to kind of make a compound up here.
George, when all those olive trees are mature, how much olive oil will that garner?
Well, if you get question, it depends on how big the tree is, but a good mature tree should give you about a gallon. A good mature tree.
Gallon a year?
A gallon a year, yeah. Depending on if the weather treats you well. This last 2 years have been awful because all the flowers came out, and then in April, during that bridge sort of weather, the climate is so goofy right now. It's gotten too hot, and when it gets too hot early, it causes afternoon winds. The winds come through and either knock the flowers off or don't allow the pollen to talk to the other trees, right? So it just gets swept away, and then the tree is like, I held on to these 10 olives,
Oh, man, yeah.
You gotta,
Right.
yeah. So it's good. It's not a great crop this year or last year, but we'll get probably 10 or 12 gallons. It's nothing this year, but eventually I'd like to have 200 gallons,
Sure.
So
That's awesome, man.
Do you have a brand name already picked out? I mean, how
it's called the Land. It's called the Land olive oil.
amazing.
The Land.
Nice.
The Land.
Kind of just
Land.
there you
Love
go. We call it the
That's
Land,
aw-
so we just call it the Land olive oil. No.
That's
And-
cool, man.
It's gonna be
And
cool.
is the whole family excited about it, or is this just like a George business?
No one's as excited as I am. I come up
Sure.
here to lick the dirt.
Right.
But no, my wife is in, and my kids, the kids laugh at me a little bit, but they love it. They think it's fun. But second I get out of LA, I'm just happier when I get up here. Just to,
Sure.
this is
Yeah.
so beautiful. But,
It's awesome.
no,
man.
it's a creative outlet.
Yeah.
That's so
Well,
cool,
man,
man.
it sounds
Oh,
like
dude.
sounds like you figured it all out. So thanks for
Not
teaching us some
really,
lessons.
but thank you. You're sweet.
George,
Not really,
listen,
but
man, it was
day to
like
day,
it's
my
such a
friend.
such a pleasure to talk to you, but it was so great to finally meet you. I know you and I are going to be doing a lot of these cons together now because
We're gonna do them.
I don't
We're
think
gonna
I
have a
want to
show.
really do one without you. So we're gonna have a blast,
Final
man. And
Fantasy After Dark, baby.
There you
will.
go. Final Fantasy
And I-
After
and I-
Dark. Yes. All right.
Final Fantasy After Dark. And I appreciate you getting on in short notice today, man. I know you're up there.
You
and
bet.
you're
Thank you guys for
you're
having
happy,
me.
you're
Great.
a happy place.
Love
so,
your podcast. You guys are hilarious.
Is there
Thanks, brother.
anywhere that we can send our listeners to find out more, whether it's about your
What
olive
you're
oil or
doing?
anything else you want to send them to?
At the moment, I'm on Instagram and Facebook. They can follow there. But the olive oil, we got to get more product before we can sell it. We just,
Sure.
So we'll get more product
Well,
next year.
yeah,
hopefully.
just let me know when you're ready to sell it, and I'll set up everything for you, brother.
Boom.
There you go. This guy knows how to market.
We got it. We
but
got it,
but in the meantime, where can on Instagram, where can people find you so that way they can find out
I think
your
it's
con
it's
schedule?
just at George Newbern, and then at CelebWorks is the guy who manages me. So for the con stuff is at CelebWorks. It's CelebWorks. Yeah, cool.
Okay.
And then
Cool.
Instagram, just on my name on Instagram.
Awesome.
Cool, man.
Well, thank you, man. It's
All
been a real
right,
Thank you,
pleasure
guys.
George.
visiting with
George
you.
Newbern,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, indeed.